All right, get ready to peek behind the curtain of Hollywood today. We're going deep into a world where dreams can turn dark. Yeah, we're talking about film production fraud.
We're going to expose how these scammers work. They trick filmmakers, actors, anyone who wants that Hollywood magic.
It's crazy, how these scams look so real, like they're straight out of a Hollywood playbook. Super sneaky.
Oh, absolutely. Think about fake film projects. These scammers make things look so convincing, like they copy real contracts and schedules, even the language.
Though it's not just some janky website, they put effort into it.
Totally. They even name drop real people in the industry or make up connections to big studios. They know how important image is and use it to gain trust.
I read about this scammer once. Made a fake production company website so good it fooled even veterans. Awards listed, fake testimonials, the whole 9 yards.
It's wild how advanced they can be. Shows why it's crucial to research everything. Just because it looks legit doesn't mean it is.
Right, like don't judge a book by its cover. You gotta dig deeper, past the glitz, and check the details.
Exactly. And that leads us to another tactic, investment fraud. These scammers prey on the desire to be part of something huge, promise insane returns on films that don't exist or are way smaller than they say.
They're not just after big investors, right?
Nope, not at all. They target people with limited resources who might invest their life savings hoping to see their name in the credits or strike it rich.
Man, it's awful to think people's dreams and money are exploited like that.
It really is. Shows why we need education and awareness to help people spot these scams before they become victims.
Well, let's talk about those who are most vulnerable, especially aspiring actors trying to make it.
Casting scams are everywhere, and they can be devastating.
In our research, we found a particularly bad case. A scammer pretended to be a casting director for a major studio, held fake auditions in a hotel room, charged each actor hundreds of dollars for a guaranteed role in a movie that was never made.
These scammers are expert manipulators. They play on the emotions of actors, their desire for fame and success. They're willing to do a lot to achieve their dreams.
It's a reminder that even in a place like Hollywood, known for smoke and mirrors, some will straight up lie and use others.
That's why it's so important to be skeptical. Question everything, and don't be afraid to walk away if something feels wrong.
You mentioned questioning everything. One thing that came up a lot in our research was unverifiable claims. Can you explain what that means in practice and how to protect yourself?
Absolutely. Unverifiable claims are basically statements or promises that can't be backed up. Like, if a producer says they worked on a blockbuster, but there's no proof online or in industry databases, that's a red flag.
So don't just trust what they say. Do your homework. Yeah.
Exactly. It's not just their resume. Look at the project details, too. Does the production company have a real website? Can you find info about their financing or distribution plans? These are all important questions.
Sounds like due diligence is key. Like a detective, you gotta piece together clues to see if a project is legit or not.
That's a good way to put it. And like a detective, you got to be objective, be skeptical, and follow the evidence.
Okay, so we've talked about fake films, investment scams, and casting calls. What other scams should listeners know about?
There are a few more traps out there, and we'll dive into those right after this. Stay with us.
We'll be back with more from the dark side of Hollywood. Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about those sneaky tactics used to fool people in the film industry. It's scary how creative these con artists are.
Yeah, it's true. And they keep coming up with new ways to trick people. Another scam we need to talk about involves film distributors that don't even exist. They go after filmmakers who really want their work to be seen.
So they're basically saying, hey, we'll get your film on Netflix, Amazon Prime, all the big platforms.
You got it. They dangle that promise of being seen all over the world. They know filmmakers put their heart into their work and want to share it.
So they probably charge a lot for this service, but don't actually do anything, right? Like buying a first-class plane ticket, but the plane never takes off.
Perfect analogy. They might even show you fake contracts or credentials to look real, but you end up with nothing but an empty bank account and broken dreams.
It's so cruel, taking advantage of people's hard work and passion. I've heard stories of filmmakers who lost their homes or savings because of these fake distribution deals.
It's a sad reality. Shows how important it is to really check out distributors, talk to other filmmakers who've worked with them, look at their past work, and be careful of anyone who makes promises that sound too good to be true.
Like the old saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, huh?
Exactly. And that takes us to another scam that hurts independent filmmakers. Fake film festivals.
Ugh, this one is personal for me. I have a lot of friends who poured their heart into their films and got ripped off by these fake events. It's like getting invited to the Oscars, but it's
Yeah.
actually some high school talent show in a bad part of town.
That's a good way to put it. These festivals create an image of prestige and awards. They know filmmakers want to show off their work and get noticed. They'll have a fancy website, big-name judges, even prizes. But it's all a trick to get entry fees from unsuspecting filmmakers.
And the worst part is, it's not just about the money. It hurts emotionally, too. It shakes your confidence as a filmmaker. You start questioning your talent and dreams.
Absolutely, it's a breach of trust, and it can be really discouraging, especially when you're new to the industry.
Okay, so we talked about distributors that don't exist and fake film festivals. What's the last type of fraud we should warn people about?
This one's especially sneaky because it targets people looking for real jobs.
Yeah.
Fake film crew jobs. These scams prey on people who want to work in film, promising them paid positions on cool projects.
It's a double whammy then. Not only are they losing money, they're missing out on real experience and building their resumes.
You got it. They might advertise jobs like camera operators, sound people, or production assistants. They might even do fake interviews to make it seem real. But once they think you're hooked, they'll ask for money up front for things like training, equipment, or uniforms.
That reminds me of this story I heard about a young woman who got offered a makeup artist job on a big film. She was so excited she quit her job and even took out a loan to buy a special makeup kit the scammer told her she needed.
That's just awful.
Wow.
And it happens all the time, sadly. These scammers are good at targeting people's dreams and using their desire to break into the industry.
Okay, so this has been a pretty grim look at the film industry. But I don't want our listeners to feel like they're stepping into a minefield every time they chase a project or job. There have to be ways to stay safe, right?
For sure. There are a bunch of things people can do to avoid these scams. The most important is to shift from reacting to scams to actively looking out for them.
So instead of waiting for something shady to happen, we should be on the lookout for those red flags, right?
Exactly. And we've already talked about some of them today.
Like upfront payments, things they say that can't be proven, fake distributors, and film festivals. But let's get more specific and give our listeners some real advice on how to spot these danger signs.
Okay, great idea. Let's start with one of the most obvious ones, upfront payment. In the real film world, it's really unusual for anyone to be asked to pay for the chance to work on a project.
So if they ask you to pay for casting, travel, equipment, or anything else up front, that's a big warning sign.
You bet. Legitimate productions have budgets, and they handle costs the right way. Asking someone to pay up front is a giant red flag that something's wrong.
Got it. No upfront fees. What about that classic line, too good to be true? How can people tell a real opportunity from a scam trying to lure them in with big promises?
That's a good question. And it takes some healthy skepticism and critical thinking. If someone's offering a lead role with no experience, a crazy high return on investment, or a distribution deal that sounds too good to be true, be very, very careful.
So don't let excitement cloud your judgment. Take a step back, look at things objectively, and ask tough questions.
Exactly. And that leads to the next red flag, pressure to commit quickly. Scammers use high-pressure tactics to make you feel like you have to decide fast, hoping to stop you from thinking things through.
It's that classic sales tactic, right? Limited time offer or only a few spots left. They're creating that fear of missing out, and that can make people rush into bad decisions.
You got it. In film, like in life, the good stuff comes to those who are patient and do their homework. Don't let anyone pressure you into a decision you're not ready for.
Okay, so we've got upfront fees, crazy promises, and pressure tactics. What other red flags should we be aware of?
Well, we've mentioned unverifiable claims, but it's super important to do your research. Don't just take their word for it. Check their background, their past work, and look closely at the project itself. If something feels off or you can't find info to support what they're saying, that's a red flag.
It's like buying a car without checking under the hood or its history. You wouldn't do that, right? So why invest time, money, or talent in a project without checking it out?
Exactly. And this connects to another big red flag, a lack of transparency. If a production company or person is being vague about project details, financing, distribution plans, or their own experience, that's a warning sign.
Sounds like they're hiding something.
Exactly. If they're not open and honest, it's best to walk away. Real projects are built on trust and clear communication.
Transparency is key. What about all those great online reviews and testimonials we see? How can listeners tell what's real praise and what's made up?
That's a really good point. These days, it's super easy for scammers to fake reviews to make themselves look good.
So don't just read a few positive reviews and think everything's great. Gotta dig deeper.
Absolutely. Look for things that don't add up in the reviews. Check if the reviewers are real people. Try to find independent proof of what they're saying. If something feels weird or the praise is over the top, that's a red flag.
Be careful of fake reviews. What's the last red flag?
The last one is the urgency tactic. It's a mind game to make you feel scared and like you're missing out, pushing you to make a decision before you've really thought about it.
Ah, the decide NW or miss out trick. I've seen that before. It plays on our fear of missing a good thing, and that can make us do things we wouldn't normally do.
Exactly. Scammers use this to create a fake sense of urgency. They hope to bypass your common sense and get you to commit before you realize it's a scam.
So if someone's pushing for a quick decision, that's a sign to slow down, breathe, and think carefully.
Exactly. Remember, in film, just like life, patience and thinking things through are your best friends. To let anyone rush you into a decision you'll regret.
Man, this has been quite the journey. We've really seen the dark underbelly of Hollywood today. But it's not just about individuals being careful, right? There's like a bigger picture to all this fraud, isn't there?
Absolutely, yeah. You hear it all the time, right? Hustle, hustle, and say yes to every opportunity. That kind of thinking can make people more vulnerable to these scams, especially when they're getting rejected from the legit ways in.
It's almost like the way the industry works, that whole culture, actually helps these scams succeed.
Exactly. Think about it. Networking's huge. Some workshops or festivals are all about pay to play, and people rely on who they know for recommendations. All that can be used by people with bad intentions.
So it's not just about teaching people how to avoid scams. We need to talk about ethical behavior across the whole industry, don't we?
I agree 100%. Film schools, organizations, even famous filmmakers, they all need to promote honesty and responsibility.
What would that look like in reality? What specific things would you like to see change?
Well, one big thing would be more transparency about money and distribution deals. If there was more info available about budgets and contracts, it would make things fairer and harder for scammers to hide.
Makes sense. It would help filmmakers make smarter choices and avoid those deals that sound too good to be true.
Exactly. And these industry groups could really get involved in checking out film festivals and training programs, making sure they're ethical. They could also create resources to teach people about common scams and how to stay safe.
It's about creating a culture of mentorship and support instead of just crazy competition, making sure people have good info and guidance, especially when they're just starting out.
You got it. And as viewers, we have a part to play too. We can support independent filmmakers and ethical productions. Be careful about projects that seem all about hype and unrealistic promises.
It's about being aware of the choices we make, even just as viewers. Our support can either help these bad practices or help stop them.
That's a powerful thought. In the end, making the film industry more ethical and honest is a team effort. Everyone needs to work together, individuals, companies, and the whole community, to make things fair, responsible, and safe for everyone.
So to everyone listening, don't give up. The film industry, even with all its problems, is still a place where creativity and passion can succeed. Just remember to stay informed, watch out for red flags, trust your gut, and don't be afraid to ask questions.
And if you see something suspicious, report it. By speaking up, you might save someone else from becoming a victim, and you'll help make the industry a better place for everyone.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the sometimes shady world of film production fraud. I hope our listeners feel like they can navigate this tricky world with confidence and awareness now.
It was great being here and sharing this info with you and your listeners.
And to everyone listening, remember, knowledge is power. Stay informed, stay safe, and keep chasing those filmmaking dreams. Until next time on The Deep Dive.